Please, sir, just one sip of water, begged the dragon kid, but the human gave him his whole canteen. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The scorched plains of Meridian stretched endlessly beneath the merciless twin suns. On this parched frontier world, where settlements clung to rare oases like desperate prayers, water was more precious than platinum, more coveted than advanced technology. Nathan Brooks trudged across the cracked earth, the weight of his pack digging into his shoulders as his boots kicked up fine red dust with each step. His expedition to catalog new mineral deposits for the Terran Mining Consortium was supposed to have ended 3 days ago, but his rover had broken down 50 kilometers from the nearest outpost. The emergency beacon was active, but on a frontier world like Meridian, rescue could take days. Nathan had been a geologist for 15 years, working on some of the harshest planets humanity had colonized. He was experienced enough to always carry extra water, food, and emergency supplies. Still, as he took another small, carefully measured sip from his canteen, he calculated he had about 2 days of water left if he strictly rationed it. The daytime temperatures on Meridian regularly reached 48 degrees Celsius, making dehydration a constant threat. The landscape around him was alien but beautiful in its stark desolation. Rusty plateaus rose in the distance, their layered striations revealing billions of years of geological history. Occasionally, a scraggly firebush would appear, its metallic leaves reflecting the sunlight in brilliant flashes, evolved to survive in this unforgiving environment. Nathan had been walking for 6 hours today and needed to rest before the hottest part of the day arrived. He spotted a small cluster of boulders ahead that would provide some shade and adjusted his course toward them. As he drew closer, he noticed something unusual, a shimmer of movement. Instinctively, his hand moved to the blaster on his hip. Meridian wasn't known for dangerous predators, but the frontier always held surprises. He approached cautiously, squinting against the glare. The shimmer resolved into a small figure huddled in the scant shade of the largest boulder. It was a child. No, not a human child. As Nathan came closer, he realized it was a young draconian, a member of the reptilian species that shared colonization rights on Meridian. The draconians were a proud race, physically imposing in adulthood but vulnerable in their early years. This one couldn't be more than 8 or 9 years old in equivalent human development. The young draconian was clearly in distress. Its normally lustrous scales had dulled to a pale gray, and its breathing came in rapid, shallow gasps. The membrane frills on either side of its head, which should have been a vibrant crimson, were pinched and faded to a sickly pink. All signs of severe dehydration. Nathan approached slowly, making his movements deliberate and non-threatening. Relations between humans and draconians were peaceful, but sometimes strained by competition for resources. "Hey there," Nathan said softly, crouching down a few meters away. "Are you okay?" The young draconian's eyes fluttered open, vertical pupils dilating in the harsh sunlight. Those eyes fixed on Nathan with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "Human," the child rasped, the universal translator in Nathan's ear converting the sibilant draconian speech. "Please help." Nathan moved closer, setting his pack down. "What happened? Where are your parents?" The young draconian struggled to sit up. "Separated from scouting party. 2 days ago. Storm came. Got lost." Each word seemed to cost tremendous effort. Nathan nodded. A dust storm had swept through the region 3 days ago. It would have been easy for anyone to lose their bearings in the blinding, swirling red clouds. "What's your name?" Nathan asked, unclipping the medical scanner from his belt. "Tezix," the young draconian replied weakly. Nathan ran the scanner over Tezix, confirming what he already suspected: severe dehydration, bordering on critical. The young draconian's body temperature was dangerously elevated, even for a species adapted to heat. Without immediate intervention, the child would not survive another day. "I'm Nathan. I'm going to help you, Tezix," he said, reaching for his canteen. "You need water." At the mention of water, Tezix's eyes widened, and a trembling claw reached out. Please, sir, just one sip of water, begged the dragon kid, his voice barely audible. Nathan paused, canteen in hand. He knew the stakes. His water was limited, and they were both a long way from safety. Adult draconians could go longer without water than humans, having evolved on an arid homeworld, but their young were paradoxically more vulnerable to dehydration during development. Something about the rapid growth of their scales and internal temperature regulation. A single sip wouldn't save Tezix. The young draconian needed much more than that to survive. Nathan made his decision in an instant. Here, he said, placing the canteen in Tezix's trembling claws. Take it. Drink slowly, but drink as much as you need. The young draconian stared at the canteen, not comprehending. But all of it? Yes, all of it, Nathan confirmed. Drink slowly, though. Too fast will make you sick. Tezix looked from the canteen to Nathan and back again, confusion evident in his expression. But you need water too. Nathan smiled. I have more in my pack. It wasn't exactly a lie. He did have another half-liter in a secondary canteen, barely enough for himself for one day in this heat if he was extremely careful. But Tezix didn't need to know that. With trembling claws, Tezix raised the canteen to his mouth and took a small, careful sip. The effect was immediate. The dulled scales around his throat rippled with relief, and a soft sigh escaped him. After a few moments, he took another sip, and another, following Nathan's instructions to drink slowly. Nathan busied himself setting up a small shade canopy from his emergency kit, creating a larger patch of shadow for them both. The temperature would continue rising for several more hours before the twin suns began their descent. My father says humans are selfish, Tezix said suddenly, lowering the canteen. That you came to Meridian to take what isn't yours. Nathan smiled wryly as he secured the last corner of the canopy. Some humans are selfish. Some draconians are selfish too, I imagine. People are just people, regardless of species. Tezix seemed to consider this, taking another small sip of water. Why did you give me your water then? Because you needed it more than I did, Nathan answered simply, sitting down across from the young draconian. And because it was the right thing to do. Tezix's vertical pupils narrowed thoughtfully. My clutch mother teaches that right action comes from honor. Is honor important to humans too? Nathan considered the question. We don't talk about it the same way your people do, but yes. We call it different things: kindness, decency, compassion, doing right by others. The young draconian nodded slowly, seeming to find this answer satisfactory. After a few more careful sips, some color had returned to Tezix's scale frills, shifting from sickly pink to a healthier rose hue. Do you know which direction your scouting party was headed? Nathan asked. Or where your settlement is located? Tezix pointed toward the distant mountains to the north. The Crimson Ridge settlement. My father is a mineral surveyor for the Draconian Guild. Nathan nodded. I know it. That's about 80 kilometers from here. Too far to walk, especially with a weakened child and limited water. Is that where you're going? Tezix asked. No, I was headed to Harmony Outpost to the east, Nathan replied, pointing in the opposite direction. I've got an emergency beacon active, but rescue might take another day or two to reach us. He checked his scanner again, pleased to see Tezix's vital signs improving with hydration. How are you feeling now? Better, Tezix said. The burning is less. He had drunk about a quarter of the canteen so far, pacing himself as instructed. Nathan nodded approvingly. Good. We should rest through the hottest part of the day, then consider our options. As they sat in the shade of the canopy, Nathan shared some of his emergency rations, designed to be digestible by most sapient species. Tezix accepted the food with solemn gratitude. As they ate, Nathan found himself curious about the young draconian. How old are you, Tezix? I have seen 7 seasonal cycles since my hatching, the young draconian replied proudly. This was my first scouting expedition. I was to observe only, to learn the land. His frills drooped slightly in embarrassment. I have failed in my duty. Getting separated in a storm isn't failure, Nathan reassured him. It's just bad luck. Happens to the best of us. Tezix didn't seem convinced. My father will be disappointed. He is Surveyor First Rank Mazdak. He expects excellence. The name was familiar to Nathan. Mazdak was well known among geological survey teams. A brilliant mineralogist, but notoriously difficult to work with. His disdain for human mining methods was widely known. "I've heard of your father," Nathan said diplomatically. "His work on magma veins is highly respected." Tezix's frills perked up slightly. "You know of his work?" "Of course. In my field, everyone does." This seemed to please the young Draconian. He took another sip of water, his movements more controlled now as his strength returned. "What is your rank, Nathan Human?" Nathan smiled at the formal address. "Just Nathan is fine. And I'm a senior geological surveyor for the Terran Mining Consortium." Tezix's eyes widened slightly. "That is a position of importance?" "Important enough, I suppose," Nathan replied with a shrug. "I survey new areas, determine what resources are available, and how they might be extracted safely. My father says human mining destroys the land," Tezix said bluntly, the characteristic draconian directness showing through. Nathan nodded, not offended by the comment. "Some old methods did, but we've learned better ways. Now we try to work with minimal impact. Your people have taught us a lot about sustainable extraction, actually." Tezix seemed surprised by this admission. "You learn from draconians?" "Of course. That's how progress works. We learn from each other." The conversation paused as Nathan checked his comm unit again. Still no response to the emergency beacon. He tried not to let his concern show, but the situation was growing more precarious. With most of his water now given to Tezix, his own time was limited. If rescue didn't come within a day, his chances would diminish rapidly. As if reading his thoughts, Tezix extended the canteen toward him. "You should drink too." Nathan gently pushed it back. "I'm fine for now. You need it more." Tezix's frills flattened against his head, a sign of distress or disagreement among draconians. "You lie? I can smell your dehydration. Your skin lacks moisture." Nathan chuckled. He'd forgotten about the draconian's acute sense of smell. "I'll be fine, Tezix. I've been in tougher spots." The young draconian's eyes narrowed. "Honor demands truth between allies." "Allies are we?" Nathan asked with a raised eyebrow. "You gave me water in the desert," Tezix replied solemnly. "By the oldest laws of my people, that makes us water-bound." Nathan hadn't heard of this tradition before, but he could guess its significance on a desert world. "I'm honored. But really, I'm okay for now." Tezix wasn't persuaded. "Take some water. A water bond is mutual, or it is nothing." Recognizing the cultural importance, Nathan accepted the canteen and took a small sip, just enough to moisten his parched lips and throat, before handing it back. "Thank you." Satisfied, Tezix nodded. The bond is maintained. As the day wore on, the temperature peaked at a blistering 50 degrees Celsius. They remained in the shade, conserving energy and taking turns watching for any sign of rescue. Nathan showed Tezix how to use the scanner to monitor for approaching vehicles or aircraft, teaching the young draconian how the different signatures appeared on the display. Tezix proved to be a quick study, asking insightful questions about the technology. Nathan found himself impressed by the young draconian's intelligence and curiosity. "Your scales are changing color," Nathan observed as the afternoon progressed. Where they had been a dull gray earlier, they now showed hints of deep blue along the edges. Tezix ran a claw along his forearm, examining the scales. "It is the water and the food. My body recovers." "Is blue your natural color?" Nathan asked. "When fully grown, I will be blue like the deep sky after storm time." Tezix replied with evident pride. "Like my father, but with gold frills like my clutch mother." Nathan smiled, trying to picture the adult draconian that Tezix would one day become. "Sounds impressive." "It is our way," Tezix said simply. Then, after a moment's hesitation, "Why do humans have such dull skin colors?" "No offense meant," he added quickly. Nathan laughed. "None taken. I suppose we're just not as fancy as draconians. Though humans do come in different shades and colors." "But no scales," Tezix pointed out. "How do you regulate temperature without scales?" "We sweat," Nathan explained. "Our skin releases moisture to cool us down." Tezix looked horrified. You lose water through your skin? Voluntarily. Not voluntarily, Nathan clarified. It's automatic. But yes, that's why humans need more water than draconians, especially in hot environments. The young draconian shook his head in disbelief. Such inefficiency. No wonder you need so many water carries. This conversation continued as the twin suns began their slow descent toward the horizon. The temperature dropped slightly, bringing minor relief. Nathan checked his comm unit again. Still no response to the beacon. Should we walk? Tezix asked, noticing Nathan's concern. I am stronger now. Nathan considered their options. Walking would burn precious energy and accelerate dehydration. But staying put might mean waiting too long for rescue. Let's wait until dusk, he decided. If no one's come by then, we'll start moving toward Harmony Outpost. It's closer than your settlement. Tezix nodded in agreement. A wise plan. As they waited, Nathan showed Tezix some of his geological samples, explaining how different minerals formed and what they revealed about a planet's history. The young draconian was particularly fascinated by a piece of iridescent stone that changed color when viewed from different angles. This is what I was sent to find, Nathan explained. Chromoshift ore. It's rare, but valuable for certain technologies. My father seeks the same, Tezix said, carefully handling the sample. He believes a large deposit exists beneath the Crimson Ridge. Does he now? Nathan replied, intrigued. The consortium would definitely want to know about that. I should not have said that, Tezix added quickly, looking embarrassed. It is guild information. Nathan smiled reassuringly. Don't worry. Professional courtesy between geologists. I won't tell anyone. As dusk approached and the first sun dipped below the horizon, the temperature began dropping more rapidly. Nathan packed up the canopy and prepared for travel, checking Tezix's condition once more. You're doing much better, he confirmed. But we should still take it easy. We'll walk for a few hours, rest, then continue through the night when it's coolest. Tezix nodded, standing tall with renewed strength. His scales now showed distinct blue patterns, especially along his spine and limbs. The frills on his head had expanded to their normal size, displaying a healthy crimson hue. They had just finished packing when Nathan's scanner beeped. He checked the display, then looked to the western sky. Someone's coming, he announced, relief evident in his voice. A dark speck appeared against the orange sky, growing larger as it approached. But as it drew nearer, Nathan's expression changed from relief to concern. That's not a rescue ship, he said quietly. That's a draconian scout flyer. Tezix's frills extended fully in excitement. My father. It must be. Nathan nodded slowly. Likely so. As the flyer drew closer, its sleek, angular design became visible, typical draconian engineering, emphasizing efficiency and performance over comfort. It circled once overhead before descending about 50 meters away, its landing struts extending as it settled on the cracked earth. The canopy slid back, and a large adult draconian emerged, his deep blue scales gleaming in the fading sunlight, gold frills fully extended in a display of authority. Surveyor First Rank Mazdak had indeed come for his son. Father, Tezix called out, moving toward the flyer. Mazdak strode forward, his movements precise and controlled despite obvious haste. He reached his son and crouched, examining him with intense scrutiny, clawed hands checking for injuries. You live, he stated, his translator rendering the words flat, but unable to hide the relief in his posture. When the storm separated us, I feared. I would have died, father, Tezix said solemnly. But the humans saved me. He gave me water. Mazdak's vertical pupils contracted as his gaze shifted to Nathan. He rose to his full height, nearly 2 meters tall and imposing in his formal guild surveyor's armor. Human, he acknowledged with a slight incline of his head. You assisted my son? Nathan nodded. He was severely dehydrated when I found him. I gave him water and food, set up shelter. Mazdak's frills tightened slightly, a sign of suspicion or calculation. You are far from human territory. My rover broke down, Nathan explained. I was heading to Harmony Outpost on foot. He is Nathan, Tezix interjected. Senior Geological Surveyor for the Human Consortium. He knows of your work, Father. Mazdak's eyes narrowed slightly. Does he? He studied Nathan more carefully. You gave my son water in the desert. He needed it, Nathan replied simply. Father, Tezek said, his tone serious beyond his years. He gave me his entire canteen when I asked for just one sip. We are waterbound. This declaration seemed to startle Mazdak. His frills flared wide, then settled into a more neutral position. A water bond is not entered lightly, human. Do you understand what this means? Not entirely, Nathan admitted. But it seemed important to Tezek. Mazdak regarded him for a long moment. Among my people, to share water in the desert creates a bond stronger than blood. It is sacred, especially to give all when asked for little. Nathan hadn't known the full significance, but he nodded respectfully. I did what anyone would do. No, Mazdak replied firmly. Not anyone. Not even all Draconians would give their last water to a stranger's child. He seemed to come to a decision. You will come with us to Crimson Ridge. Your emergency beacon will not bring rescue soon. There was an incident at the human mining site that has drawn all resources. This was concerning news. What kind of incident? A collapse in the eastern tunnels, Mazdak explained. No fatalities, but many injuries requiring evacuation. Nathan absorbed this information with a grim nod. Had he continued toward Harmony Outpost, he might have walked for days before realizing no help was coming. Thank you, he said. I appreciate the offer. It is not an offer, Mazdak corrected. It is obligation. The water bond demands it. With that settled, they boarded the Draconian flyer, a tight fit with the three of them, but manageable. As Mazdak prepared for takeoff, Tezek leaned close to Nathan. You have honored me, the young Draconian whispered, and taught me that my father's views of humans may not be entirely correct. Nathan smiled. And you've taught me more about Draconian culture than I learned in all my years on Meridian. Fair exchange, I'd say. The flyer lifted off, turning north toward the distant Crimson Ridge. As they gained altitude, the vast expanse of the Meridian Desert spread out below them, beautiful and deadly in its immensity. Nathan found himself reflecting on how a simple act of kindness had created an unexpected bond across species. In the cockpit, Mazdak programmed the course, then glanced back at Nathan. My son says you showed him geological samples. You seek chromoshift or, among other things, Nathan confirmed, surprised by the direct question. Mazdak was silent for a moment, his claws tapping rhythmically on the control panel. The Terran Consortium's methods are inefficient. You drill too deep, too quickly. Coming from a Draconian, this was practically cordial criticism. Our technologies have different strengths, Nathan replied diplomatically. Another moment of silence. Then, perhaps there is merit in combining approaches. This was unexpected. Nathan raised an eyebrow. A joint survey? The deposits beneath Crimson Ridge are extensive, Mazdak said, his tone neutral but his frills betraying interest. But complex. The Draconian Guild has expertise in mapping crystalline formations. Your consortium has superior extraction technology for minimal disruption. Nathan understood what was happening. This wasn't just about a rescue anymore. This was about resources, cooperation, and possibly a significant shift in human-Draconian relations on Meridian. I'd be interested in discussing that possibility, he said carefully. Mazdak nodded once. We will speak more at Crimson Ridge, after you have rested and recovered. Tezek looked between his father and Nathan, his expression one of confusion mixed with hope. Does this mean humans and Draconians will work together? Perhaps, Mazdak answered, his gaze fixed on the horizon. If terms can be agreed upon. Nathan caught Tezek's eye and gave him a reassuring smile. The young Draconian's scales now gleamed with health, the blue pattern distinct and vibrant. It was remarkable how quickly he had recovered once properly hydrated. As the flyer sped northward, the landscape below changing from baked plains to rugged foothills, Nathan reflected on the strange twist of fate that had brought him here. A broken rover, a lost child, and a canteen of water had somehow led to a potential breakthrough in interspecies cooperation. They arrived at Crimson Ridge Settlement as the second sun was setting. The Draconian community was built directly into the Redstone Cliffs, a sophisticated blend of natural caverns and precision-carved structures. Soft bioluminescent lighting outlined walkways and building entrances, creating an ethereal blue-green glow against the darkening crimson stone. As they landed on a broad platform near the top of the ridge, Nathan saw several Draconians already gathered, clearly awaiting their arrival. News traveled fast in small communities. Mazdak spoke briefly to the assembled Draconians in their native language, too complex and rapid for Nathan's translator to fully process. There were reactions of surprise, with many curious glances directed his way. "Come," Mazdak said to Nathan as he finished addressing the group. "You will be given quarters and attended to. The elders will want to speak with you tomorrow." "The elders?" Nathan questioned, suddenly concerned this had become a much bigger diplomatic situation than he'd anticipated. "It is not often a water bond is formed between our peoples," Mazdak explained, "and never before with my bloodline. There are implications." Before Nathan could ask for clarification, Tezix tugged at his sleeve. "Do not worry. It is an honor. They will not harm one who is waterbound." Nathan nodded, though he wasn't entirely reassured. He followed Mazdak and Tezix into the settlement, acutely aware of the curious stares from the Draconians they passed. Some seemed merely interested, others openly suspicious, and a few downright hostile. The quarters provided were surprisingly comfortable, a guest chamber carved into the living rock, with proper climate control and amenities adapted for human physiology. There was even a water recycler, a luxury on Meridian. After Mazdak left, promising to return in the morning, Tezix lingered by the doorway. "My father has assigned me to ensure your comfort," the young Draconian explained. "It is my honor debt to you." Nathan smiled tiredly. "You don't owe me anything, Tezix. But I appreciate the company." "You do not understand," Tezix insisted. "The water bond is sacred. You gave when you could have kept. Such actions, they are remembered in our histories." Nathan felt a sudden weight of responsibility. He'd simply helped a child in distress. He hadn't intended to create some kind of historical diplomatic incident. "I just did what seemed right at the time." Tezix's frills rippled in what Nathan was beginning to recognize as amusement. "That is often how the most important actions occur, is it not? Will you rest now?" "Yes," Nathan replied, suddenly aware of his exhaustion. "It's been a long few days." Tezix nodded. "I will return at first light to guide you to the council chamber." He paused at the doorway. "Nathan Human." "Yes. Thank you. For my life." Before Nathan could respond, the young Draconian was gone, the door sliding shut behind him. Left alone, Nathan took a much-needed shower, the recycled water a luxury after days in the desert. As he prepared for sleep, he wondered what exactly he had gotten himself into. His rescue had somehow evolved into a cultural exchange, a potential business partnership, and now apparently some sort of formal meeting with Draconian elders. All because he'd given a thirsty child his canteen. Morning came with a soft chime from the room's environmental system. Nathan had slept deeply, his body recovering from the ordeal of the past days. He found fresh clothing waiting, a simple outfit made of lightweight, breathable fabric suitable for Meridian's climate, but cut in a human style. Someone had gone to considerable effort to accommodate him. As promised, Tezix arrived just as Nathan finished dressing. The young Draconian looked completely transformed from the dehydrated, dying child of yesterday. His scales gleamed a vibrant blue, and his movements were full of energy and confidence. "Good morning," Nathan greeted him. "You're looking well." Tezix performed a formal gesture, right claw over his heart, head slightly bowed. "I am restored, thanks to your sacrifice. The council awaits, if you are prepared." "As ready as I'll ever be," Nathan replied, feeling distinctly underdressed for what was apparently a significant diplomatic meeting. "What exactly should I expect from this council?" "Questions," Tezix answered as he led Nathan through the winding corridors of the settlement. "Many questions. About why you helped me, about your work, about what you seek on Meridian. And what does your father expect to come of this?" Tezix's frills rippled with what might have been uncertainty. My father rarely shares his expectations with me, but I believe he sees possibility. They emerged into a large circular chamber carved from the living rock of the cliff. The ceiling vaulted high overhead, with precisely angled shafts allowing beams of morning sunlight to illuminate the space. Around a crescent-shaped table sat 5 elderly draconians, their scales faded with age but their posture commanding respect. Behind them stood several younger adults, including Mazdak. At the center of the open space was a simple stone pedestal with a large ceremonial bowl. Tezix led Nathan to stand before the council, then moved to join his father. One of the elders, a female with pale green scales and elaborately decorated gold frills, spoke first. "You are Nathan Brooks, human surveyor," she stated, her translator rendering her words with formal precision. "I am," Nathan confirmed with a respectful nod. "I am Elder Shurath, voice of the Crimson Ridge Council." She gestured to the bowl on the pedestal. "Surveyor Mazdak has informed us that you entered a water bond with his son Tezix. Is this your understanding as well?" Nathan glanced at Tezix, who gave an encouraging nod. "I gave him water when he needed it," Nathan replied. "He told me this created something called a water bond between us, though I admit I don't fully understand the significance." Elder Shiratha's frills tightened slightly. "Yet you freely gave your entire water supply to a child not of your species, in a desert where such an action might mean your own death." "He needed it more than I did," Nathan said simply. A murmur passed through the assembled draconians. Elder Shurath exchanged glances with her fellow council members before continuing. "For 10 cycles of settlement on Meridian, humans and draconians have maintained separation, sharing this world, but rarely its bounty or knowledge." She leaned forward, her ancient eyes studying Nathan intently. "Now you, through a single act, have created a bond with the bloodline of one of our most respected surveyors." Nathan wasn't sure how to respond to this, so he remained silent. Another elder spoke, a male with dark red scales and elaborate scarification across his frills. "The question before us is not the validity of the bond that is established beyond dispute by multiple witnesses. The question is what comes of it." Mazdak stepped forward. "If I may address the council?" At Elder Shiratha's nod, he continued. "This human possesses knowledge valuable to our guild. His consortium seeks the same resources we do, but with different methods. I propose a limited exchange of expertise, beginning with the chromoshift deposits beneath our settlement." This caused a stir among the council members. The red-scaled elder's frills flattened against his head. "You suggest sharing guild secrets with humans?" "I suggest," Mazdak replied carefully, "that there are mutual benefits to limited cooperation. The water bond provides cultural context for such an arrangement." Nathan began to understand. Mazdak was using the unexpected situation to propose a collaboration that might otherwise have been politically impossible. Whether from genuine interest in cooperation or simply pragmatic resource optimization, he was leveraging the water bond as justification. Elder Shurath raised a claw for silence. "Nathan Brooks, what does your consortium seek on Meridian?" Nathan chose his words with care. "Resources, yes, but sustainable ones. We've learned from past mistakes on other worlds. The consortium's current protocols emphasize minimal environmental impact and long-term viability." He paused, then added, "Draconians have much knowledge we could learn from about working with this planet rather than against it." "Pretty words," the red-scaled elder commented dismissively. "Yet human mining operations continue to cause disruptions." "Because we're working with incomplete information," Nathan countered respectfully. "We don't fully understand Meridian's geological systems yet. With better knowledge, the kind your guild possesses, we could refine our approaches." Elder Shurath tapped her claws thoughtfully against the stone table. "And what would humans offer in exchange for such knowledge?" "Advanced extraction techniques," Nathan replied promptly. "Processing technology that increases yield while reducing energy consumption. And information sharing about deposits beyond Crimson Ridge territory." The council members conferred among themselves in their native language, too quick and complex for Nathan's translator to follow. Finally, Elder Shurath addressed him again. The water bond creates obligation, Nathan Brooks. Tezix of Mazdak's clutch now carries your water within him. By our oldest laws, this makes you kin, distant, but recognized. She gestured to the ceremonial bowl. We would formalize this bond and extend it to a limited resource-sharing agreement between our guild and your consortium. Nathan realized he was being offered far more than a rescue and safe return to human territory. This was potentially a historic shift in human-draconian relations on Meridian, and it had started with a canteen of water. I would be honored, he replied, though I should note that I can only speak for myself, not the entire consortium. Elder Shirath's frills rippled with what might have been amusement. Of course, this agreement would be provisional upon your superior's approval, but having one who is waterbound advocate for it will carry significant weight. The ceremony that followed was brief but solemn. Water from Crimson Ridge's central reservoir, their most precious resource, was poured into the ceremonial bowl. Tezix came forward to stand beside Nathan. They each placed a hand, human and draconian, into the water simultaneously as Elder Shurath spoke words in the ancient draconian tongue, untranslated. When it was done, a ripple of what seemed to be approval passed through the assembled draconians. Even the red-scaled elder's frills had relaxed somewhat. It is accomplished, Elder Shurath announced. Nathan Brooks is recognized as waterkin to the clutch of Mazdak. Let preparations begin for knowledge exchange. The formalities concluded, the council members departed, leaving Nathan with Mazdak and Tezix. The senior draconian surveyor regarded Nathan with what appeared to be newfound respect. You handled that well, for one unfamiliar with our ways, Mazdak observed. Nathan smiled wryly. I've had some diplomatic training. Comes with the territory when working on frontier worlds. Your consortium will accept this arrangement? Mazdak asked directly. They'll jump at it, Nathan assured him. We've been trying to establish better relations with the Draconian Guild for years. This is exactly the kind of opportunity they've been hoping for. Mazdak nodded, satisfied. Then it appears my son's misfortune has led to fortunate outcomes for all. The best outcomes often come from unexpected beginnings, Nathan replied. Tezix, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. Does this mean Nathan will stay at Crimson Ridge? Mazdak's frills tightened in what Nathan was learning to interpret as thoughtfulness. For a time, perhaps. There are arrangements to be made, knowledge to be exchanged. And I need to contact my superiors, Nathan added. Let them know I'm alive, for one thing. Communications have been arranged, Mazdak informed him. You may use our relay station to contact your consortium. As they walked through the settlement toward the communications center, Nathan noticed a change in how the other Draconians regarded him. The suspicious or hostile glances had been replaced with curious but respectful acknowledgement. Word of the waterbond ceremony had clearly spread quickly. Tezix walked proudly beside him, occasionally explaining features of the settlement or introducing passing Draconians. The young Draconian's status seemed to have been elevated by his connection to Nathan, no longer just a surveyor's son, but part of an unexpected diplomatic breakthrough. At the communications center, Nathan was given privacy to contact the consortium headquarters. As expected, his superiors were first relieved to learn of his survival, then ecstatic about the potential agreement with the Draconian Guild. What might have taken years of careful negotiation had been accomplished through a single act of kindness in the desert. The weeks that followed were busy with technical meetings, knowledge exchange, and the careful building of trust between the two groups. Nathan found himself working closely with Mazdak, whose initial coolness gradually gave way to professional respect and, eventually, something resembling friendship. Tezix became Nathan's unofficial cultural guide, eager to share Draconian customs and equally curious about human ways. The young Draconian showed remarkable aptitude for geology and seemed destined to follow in his father's footsteps, perhaps with a more open perspective toward interspecies cooperation. 2 months after the fateful encounter in the desert, Nathan stood with Mazdak and Tezix on an observation platform overlooking the first joint human-Draconian mining operation on Meridian. Below them, teams from both species worked together, combining draconian mapping precision with human extraction technology. The chroma shift ore was being harvested with minimal disruption to the surrounding geology, something neither group could have accomplished alone. It is working better than anticipated, Mazdak acknowledged, watching the operation with critical eyes. Your consortium's boring technique preserves the crystalline structures as promised, and your guild's mapping has increased our efficiency by nearly 40%, Nathan replied. The headquarters team is already talking about expanding this model to other settlements. Tezix, now officially apprenticed to his father but also studying human geological techniques, looked between them with undisguised pride. All because of water shared in the desert. Nathan smiled at the young draconian, whose scales now gleamed a rich, deep blue with gold-tipped frills, beginning to show the adult coloration he would one day fully develop. Sometimes the smallest actions have the biggest consequences. A human saying? Mazdak inquired. Just an observation, Nathan replied. True for any species, I imagine. As they watched the successful collaboration below, Nathan reflected on how close he'd come to walking past those boulders without investigating, how easily he might have missed finding Tezix. A small deviation in his path would have led to a very different outcome, not just for the young draconian who would have perished, but for all those now benefiting from this new cooperation. Tezix seemed to sense his thoughts. On Meridian, we have a saying, water finds its true path, even through stone. Nathan nodded appreciatively at the proverb. I like that. I thought you might, the young draconian replied, his frills rippling with pleasure. It seems appropriate for our situation. Indeed it does, Nathan agreed, watching as human and draconian workers called to each other across the mining site, sharing tools and expertise with growing comfort and familiarity. A simple request for just one sip of water had somehow changed the course of two species on this frontier world. Nathan had given his whole canteen without hesitation, an instinctive act of compassion that crossed the boundaries of biology, culture, and history. And like water finding its path through stone, that single moment of connection had created channels where none existed before, allowing something new to flow between worlds that had too long remained separate. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.